Guys, welcome back. So today we're going to be working with neon effects in Gravit. Now last period you were introduced to this concept and you got a little bit of practice with it. This period we're going to spend a bigger chunk of time working in Gravit, creating some really cool neon signs for some city scenes. Let's start off with accessing our file through Google Classroom and making sure as soon as we have it open in Gravit, we save it to our cloud as a backup. Now you're going to start with your check for understanding. It's in two parts, so let's zoom in and begin. You're going to be given a coffee vector, and with this vector, your expectation is to add a neon effect. Now the vector is live and made for you, so in this case you don't have to draw or create anything. What you're going to need is two copies, because you know when you're making a neon effect, you always need two copies. One that's going to have the color and one that's going to be the white sign itself. So I'm simply going to make a copy and move it over. Next, I want to pick my color that my sign is going to be. So I'll start off with this copy and add a nice vibrant color. We'll let the color choice be up to you in this case. Now, we've also given you a border that's fairly thick already, but let's say you didn't have a thick border, it would be the time to add a thick border. Then you're going to add a blur. So I'm going to go down here on my right and add a blur. Depending the size of your original image, your blur may have to be a little smaller, a little larger. Play with this number until it looks right. You can always edit it afterwards if your blur is either too large or too small. Then lastly, you want to select your copy. Now with your copy, in this case it's already white, but if it wasn't, you would make sure it's white, okay? Now adding a drop shadow really does make a difference. I'm going to add one here. Now the problem is this is a black drop shadow on a black background. So I'm really not going to see it until I drag this copy right over my colored copy. And you can see that little bit of that drop shadow breaks up the white and the color and it really makes it look like a neon scene. I don't have these grouped, but if I had them grouped I could align them and then have them lined up this way. And now I have an easy neon sign. The second check for understanding has you creating this open sign. If you look at it, it's just a rectangle that has a border and no inside color and the words open going downwards. I only use one text box and just hit enter. Now, if you want to know how to get this rounded corner on a rectangle, I'll show you very quickly. If you take your rectangle tool and you make a rectangle, I'm going to swap over to my sub-select tool. When I do that, there's these little orange dots. If I click and pull, I can round out my corners and end up with something a little more similar to the sign. Right? And in this case, there is no fill, but there is a border. And the border is fairly thick, and the border is this bright yellow. Okay, and just like the other thing, you're going to need two copies. You're going to want to add a blur to one of them and make one of them white with the drop shadow. And the words open, I took one text box, I wrote the letters, and after each letter, I hit enter. The letters are black now, so it's not easy to see, but if I select it and make my letters white, you'll see that I simply just hit enter on each one. I also aligned them through their center right here, just so they were evenly spaced. And I did the same effect where I needed a copy, and then I added the neon effect. Once you're done with this check for understanding, Mr. Tron or myself is going to ask you if you can save either a screenshot or a PNG and bring it into your shared Google Slides. That way we can see how you're doing and if you're having any trouble with your neon work. Once you are done with your check for understanding and you've shown us, you're going to move to the main part of today. If you click on the word activity here on the upper left-hand corner, you're going to see that there has been a city scene shared with you. Your job is to create signs for each one of these stores since they don't have any. You can choose the type of stores you want if you want something to be a sneaker store, a supermarket, Trader Joe's, whatever you want. There are 7 stores in total, so you should make 7 signs. You're going to add a neon effect to each store sign and then simply place them over the buildings that they represent. If you finish that, you're going to add a neon effect to these little light bulbs here. They've been separated for you so you can easily access them, copy them, and add a neon effect. It'll just make it look like the night sky is a little more illuminated. You really want your signs and your layout to look like it belongs into this scene, so consider the colors you choose, the size of your fonts. Please make sure that each storefront sign looks a little different, so don't use the same font for each one. Get creative and really think about what would look best in the scene. If you happen to finish early and you want to zhuzh up the scene a bit, there's a little extension page here with some signs you can create to add to your scene. You don't have to create all of them, but if something sticks out to you, it'll be a good addition. If you forgot the steps on how to create something that's neon, I've added here as a page as a reference for you, just so you can go work alongside of it if you forgot a step. Now with this, you want to save often and make sure you continue to give Mr. Tron or myself some progress so we know where you're at. Good luck.